Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy content. Today we are playing a deck that is black-white and has stuff in it. Essentially this is an ephemerate deck for the most part. We're trying to get value off of things like Grief, Recruit of the Guard, potentially Steonforge Mystic, Tidehollow Scullers, using ephemerate, which is a relatively fine game plan at the end of the day. And we have this new edition of Phyrexian Flesh Gorger that I wanted to try out. So this is a 3 mana 3/3 Menace lifelink, and you have to pay life equal to its power to target it. Now the idea with this is that if we blink this, it becomes the 7/5 side. So we end up with a 7/5 Menace lifelink that takes them 7 damage to target it. So that should be pretty good in theory. But for the most part, we're sort of like a sort of mitty aggro deck. We've got a Stoneforge plan, and then we're just going to try and grind up value with Recruit of the Guards. And then we can go and get Palace Jailers, Skycliff Apparitions, more Scullers if we need them, that sort of thing. It's not going big like I like to do quite often, but it should hopefully grind up a fair bit of value, and we can disrupt our opponent with things like our Esper Sentinel, making them have to spend more mana or give us more resources. We've got a playset of Wastelands here. We've got Tidehollow Scullers that can really mess with our opponent's hand. I had a lot of fun playing with the Tidehollow Scullers when I played a zombie deck for Halloween. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the main deck. Pretty straightforward game plan. I've not seen this deck before. Someone sent it to me online. I thought I'd give it a go. Yeah, that's about it really. The numbers seem a little bit odd to me. We also have Malakir Rebirth, which does similar things for Ephemerate. But, you know, the one Skycliff Apparition and none of the Brutal Cathars feels like maybe we could have some more of these guys potentially. And I'm a little bit worried about the black pip count, or the black card count for Grief, which might prove a little bit difficult. But we'll give it a go and see how we fare. Sideboard wise, relatively clean. We've got a Leon Void package because graveyard decks are everywhere. We've got Deafening Silence to try and beat through Storm, Stony Silence to try and beat through Artifact decks, along with the Kataki of War Wage. We've got 3 cards to bring in for that matchup. The Kataki can be found with Recruit of the Guard as well, which then leads us to these other things, of the Revoker, the Engineer, and the Canonist, all 3 of which can be found with a Recruiter of the Guard. Then we have this one Sword Supply Shed. This might look a bit odd on its own, but it's just another removal spell, because sometimes we'll have to remove creatures. I suspect this deck is a little bit shaky, especially against some of these new Stompy decks perhaps, but maybe we can get a lot of value off of blinking our Solitudes and just go to town. Alright, I think that's it for the deck tech. I don't really know what to expect from this deck too much. Like, you know, obviously I can see what's in it and sort of imagine how it plays, but I've not played any of these blink decks ever before in any format, so it should be a new experience for me. But before we jump into a league, can I just say, if you would like to subscribe to my channel, that's the best way of helping me out. Obviously likes and comments are great too. Alright, let's jump into a league. We're on the play for round 1 and we don't have a lot of mana, which is a bit of an issue for us. I think we have to throw it back and get some more mana here. Maybe a little bit too much mana, but we have enough stuff to keep this hand, I think. We can keep this and throw back one of our scrub lands. So we have an Esper Sentinel, we have a Wasteland. So this is basically like a 3 spell hand and then 3 lands, which is fine. Maybe we can cast this Phyrexian Flesh Gorger and do some silly things with it. We might be able to get some more cards into our deck with an Esper Sentinel as well. Our opponent's mulliganed to 5 cards so far, which suggests to me there might be more on the combo spectrum of decks of Legacy. This turn we just want to go get ourselves a nice little basic plains and play a 1 mana 1/1 and see what our opponent has for us. Ancient Tomb. A Lotus Petal. Are they going to pay for this? Or are we getting a card? We're getting a card. Okay. Bergie. Okay, so this is looking like a Ruby Storm type deck list. Could be Epic Gamble, could just be full on Ruby Storm. We're uncertain as of yet. I imagine this matchup is abysmal. Okay, so right Flaming. No Galvanic Relaying. Okay, so this is a Galvanic Relay for 5. So not necessarily too bad for us. Let's see what they have. Okay, they have another Wish and a Relay, so they can go again next turn. But if we take out their mana from underneath them, that might be alright for us. We don't really have a lot of great options here. We have no black card for the Grief, which is something I was worried about in the deck tech. Okay, so it's a Shatter Skull Smashing from the Galvanic Relay. So casting a Rite of Flame here. And they're going to get some mana. They're they can't pay for it here, so we're going to get the free card. It wasn't a black card for our grief. Not that they've got a lot of cards in hand right now, and anything they do get is probably going to be Galvanic Relayed anyway, so not be able to interfere with it with a grief. Burning Wish, a gamble. Okay. I'm going for a gamble. So this is just going to put the card directly into their graveyard. Because they have no cards in hand. Yeah, the Echo Vions. So they've got a game plan if they can hit blue mana here. They're just going to do a Galvanic Relay this turn. Oh, okay, they can do one for 6 this turn. So better than the previous one. What do they find? So they got all these Lion's Eye Diamonds, so next turn is going to be pretty good for them. Not really sure what we're supposed to be doing about this. So getting our hand wheeled next turn. We can't use this grief because our opponent has got no cards in hand. Can't cast any of our spells. So we just pass and our opponent should be able to kill us this turn, I would imagine. So you get 1, 2, 3 storm, 4 storm with 6 mana floating aside from their lands. So we are in trouble here. My deck doesn't really play at instant speed either, apart from Ephemerate really, so we're just going to get bodied here. They need to hit Storm 8. Okay, so they've got to wish first. Sure. Well, they don't need to play these cards now anyway. The Burning Wish is gone. It's just the Galvanic Relay and Ancient Tomb that they have right now. Peer into the Abyss. Okay, so this will just draw their whole deck. I think we can happily concede at this point with the amount of mana they have floating. Alright, so onto the sideboard. Well, fortunately we have a decent chunk of cards for them. The Stony Silencer is good, the Kataki is good, the Canonist is good, the Ley Lines do have text on them as well. Phyrexian Revoker actually works, it hits mana abilities because it can't hit lands. So we have all of this, even these are potentially useful for an Empty the Warrens kill. So the question is, what are we removing from our deck? So the Skyclaw Apparition doesn't look very good here. I don't think when you do the files, our opponent is not going to be countering our spells. Ephemerate's still going to be useful for getting extra value out of our griefs. Is the Palace Jailer going to be that useful? I don't think so. It's probably okay to have as a thing that we can tutor for though. We're not going to need a Jitte. The Call to Complete is a fast clock, so that's fine. Probably don't need the Flesh Gorgers for this matchup. It's not going to be that sort of a game. The Solitudes look pretty bad. Probably better than Palace Jailer here. Could just cut out all of these Solitudes. That also ups our black card count. The Malika Rebirth. We're not expecting our guys to die. I think this is what we're going with. We're just going to try and stifle them with all these horrible things. Having 14 cards to bring this matchup seems a bit ridiculous to me. But they all have purpose here. We'll submit. Now the issue here is we could just lose. Okay, this seems right to me. So we can just lose the next game without ever getting a turn. So even if we win this one, we're a little bit in trouble perhaps. We can shut off their Echo of Eons line with the Ley Line, and we can definitely silence them. The question is whether or not we want to fire off the Sculler. I don't think we have to fire off the Sculler yet. Fire off the Grief pitching like the Sculler. I think we can hold back on that for a turn. We do only have one land here, but our tools are quite powerful. Okay, so we begin with the game with the Ley Line in play and play Deafening Silence. So we've stopped quite a lot of our opponent's resources here. They can play one card a turn until they find an answer to this. They need to answer both of these to be able to Echo of Eons chains, which is really important for their deck. That's what their main engine. But they can win without using their graveyard still. It's just a bit harder for this deck. Must be said, there's also a bit of a nombo in terms of Deafening Silence plus these guys, so you can't do your Ephemerate tricks if you have a Deafening Silence. Actually, that's not true at all. Ignore me. Right, so play the Chrome Ox of Bright Flame, now it's our turn. We have a choice here whether or not we fire off the Grief this turn. I think we're incentivized to do that still. Okay, so they're just conceding to this. Presumably they had like a Burning Wish or something to try and get answers. Alright, so now we go to the final game. Our opponent can kill us on turn 1 and we never get a turn, so I don't think we can do anything more than we have done here. So we'll submit and hope that our opponent doesn't have a turn 1. This does not have any mana, we mulligan. So this hand doesn't really do anything until turn 2 and requires us to draw a land in order for that to be the case. So I think we should just mulligan this one. I genuinely don't think this hand can beat our opponent. I think we have to mulligan again. Again, not enough black pips here. They've mulliganed to 4 cards as well. They've gone to 3. I think we have to mulligan as well. Okay, this is the best hand so far. So our opponent is mulligan really low, which means they're looking for an Echo of Eon's hand. But we do not have to let them have that. So I guess what we're doing is putting these away and hoping that we can draw some stuff. So this will mean if they've gone for an Echo of Eon's hand, it won't be sufficient to beat this. At least not for a few turns until they can draw some answers. Okay, so they've just got some mana in hand. They're playing it out. So we're in with a fighting chance. We've assembled 2 of our best lock pieces against them. We now need to draw into another mana source. Maybe get this guy on the table. Exactly as we drew it up. So in terms of colour pips, the only double black that we have really is on the grief and the ley lines. White is probably our central colour, so I think we should be getting a white source here. So we're going to cast this now, even though they only have 1 card to take, because we need to be able to present a clock. Because if we just stay like this, eventually our opponent will draw the things that lets them play the game. Might be a while, but they will eventually draw them. But because we're on 2 mana here, we can deploy a lot of our threats. Obviously not this one that we happen to have drawn. One of the scariest things our opponent can do is just play a Burgie. It's bigger than most of the guys in our deck. But if we draw another land, we can recruit it for Steonforge and we can present a really quick clock that way. Or we can go and get Kataki and blow up all their permanents, which is also fine. Okay. Chrome Mox. I have to assume they're imprinting something here. Empty the Warrens. Yep, so they did board in the empty. So I was right to bring in my Plague Engineers. A land? A land. I think our opponent will scoop when they see what we get with Recruiter of the Guard. I think at this point it is just right to get Kataki. Oh, really hateful pieces might be getting us there. Sure, they scooped because they knew next turn they would have to basically crack their Lion's Eye Diamond just to keep all their other permanents alive. And then it gets worse from there on, really. Okay, so 1-0. Didn't feel like we necessarily deserved that, but we did board in a lot of cards and they worked. So, alright, on to round 2. Okay, so our opponent is on the play for this round. I've played this person before, but I can't remember what they play. We have a Vial start, which is okay. We can sort of tick it up. We've got a Wasteland if we need to. We don't have white mana, but the Vial should provide. We have a lot of white sources in our deck. I'd rather not have this Malakir Rebirth in hand, though. It's a bit of a shaky one. Because this doesn't do anything on its own either. Oh, I think we should mulligan. Alright, this hand is better. Yeah, we can Grief Blink it on turn 1. That seems pretty good. And to do that, I think we probably need to bin off this Malakir Rebirth here. So let's hope our opponent is a deck that doesn't want to get... Oh, why did I bin off the Malakir Rebirth? What am I doing? That was a thing for the Grief. Oh my god. Embarrassing myself. Okay, our opponent has just played a basic mana and passed. So this could be... Goblins without turn 1 play is unlikely. Stompy deck without turn 1 play is possibly more likely. Because they wind up for big 3-drops. So I think we just play out a Wasteland here. Yeah, I should have stripped their hand twice this turn. That's on me. I needed to bin off a Wasteland. Summon Spirit Guide. Yeah, so this is the 3-drops I was talking about. Nothing like misplaying turn 1. Alright. So what is our strategy to get back into this game? I think we just punted the entire game there, to be honest. This is a fine plan, though. Now, if our opponent has a Fury or something, then we can be in trouble here. I think we just go and get the Cauldra, and then hopefully dig our way out of this hole we made for ourselves. If they play a Blood Moon, we're in a lot of trouble, actually. They pitch 2 cards. So he's going to attack. I'm obviously not going to block it, because having my Steonforge Mystic is more important. Hopefully we can get the Cauldra into play. So we could have had this exact same line, but our opponent has 2 cards less in hand, and I have a Grief in play. What a disaster. The Blood Moon. So this is pretty bad for us. We can draw planes. It's certainly possible. We did not draw our planes. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. We don't really get to cast any spells. I think we can scoop this one up, to be honest. Let's not waste time on it. I punted this entire game, and that's entirely on me. Okay, so Stony Silence has text against our opponent. It shuts off some of their mana. That may not be good enough, though, but we'll have a think about that. If we board these in, we want to be boarding out our Ether Vials. Revoker can name the back half of the Kikijiki enchantment. Plague Engineer on Goblin is going to be good against Rabble Masters. Definitely Silence doesn't do much. Swords to Plowshares is nice. Taki, not so much. The Monarch might be difficult to maintain against our opponent because of the nature of their deck. Has a lot of little guys. It's a case of whether or not we want Stony Silences or we want Ether Vials. Shutting off all our opponent's treasures and things does seem good, and we don't really need the Ether Vials as counter magic, but we do to get around counter magic, but we do need it to get around Blood Moons, which is a real issue for us potentially. I do actually like the Flesh Gorger in this matchup, and I like the equipment. I think the Palace Jailer can go for a Source of Plowshares. I think that's probably a slightly safer removal spell. We definitely need these things in. I like the Grief line that we should have taken. I think it has to be the Ether Vials here. That's the cleanest. We're boarding in Stony Silence. That can shut down our own Jitte. But we could always board out the Jitte and just have the 2 Stony Silences. That seems fine to me. Yeah, we'll try running this. Should have won that game. That was entirely on me. What does this opening hand do? It dies to Blood Moon pretty hard and doesn't really do much for a few turns. I think we can do better. So this has a basic land for us. So I think we can keep this one. And the choice is if we want to Grief on turn 1. I think we Grief on turn 1 into Steonforge Mystic. It's probably the best play we have here. Which means we have to bin one of these cards. It should probably be a land. So we can take the Caracas here. Let's just high roll this into the Steonforge next turn. We have to play out the Prismatic Vista to make sure that we have enough. Okay, so what does our opponent's hand do? So they can, even if I take the Chrome Mox, they can turn 1 Rabble Master. Which means we're going to be Recruiter of the Guarding in the near future. They might go for a Blood Moon. I think we probably just have to take the Rabble Master here. But it's not looking incredibly good for us. Okay, let's pop out their hand. Surgery of Traitors, Chrome Mox. This is probably going to imprint the Simian Spirit Guide. Yeah, there we go. It's a Rabble Master. We'll just crack this now while we're at it. Just get plays. Our opponent has 1 mystery card. We're getting bashed for 1 this turn, but it's going to increase very quickly. Stony Silence can shut off their Chrome Mox, but then they can just play the Blood Moon. I think we need to be putting bodies on the board here. We'll get Cauldron Complete. We can't get the Jitte. I'm pretty sure we put that into our sideboard. Yeah, there it is. Which would be okay in this situation, but again, we would need a body to attack with to really get it, I think. Okay, so we have one of these goblins, but then we take a big chunk. I can't think of anything they would have in their deck that would kill our Stoneforge from blocking there. That wouldn't kill it anyway. This could be a Blood Moon. A Fiery Confluence. Let's see what modes. Okay, so they bashed me in the face a load and then killed my Steonforge Mystic. So they did actually have a thing that punished us for doing that. Alright. This is a good pickup because it means we can play around the Blood Moon. So we can get the Solitude right now and just get rid of that and just be done with it. Or we can get the Plague Engineer, which is better against future goblins. It's a real choice. Opponent has 2 cards in hand and we know what they both are. I think we just get Solitude and just snap this off right away. Okay, so no more goblins for our opponent. And if we draw an Ephemerate, we get to rebuy here. If we draw any of the other cards in our deck that isn't one of the 4 drops, we get to cast that. We have one of each basic as well. Okay, so they drew an Ancient Tomb. That's fine by me. Grief. So that's one of the ones that we can't really do anything with. We have to start attacking at some point. Now's as good a time as any. Okay, it's our opponent's turn. There's the mountain we know about, so that's all the cards that we've seen. So I have 1 mystery card. What have you got for us? A marsh flat. So this is a mountain. So chance of our opponent finding something that can do less damage and finish this game out before this kills them is incredibly high. So we need to find action before they find action. And as action goes, that's a pretty good one. Tell this. Cast this little lady. We don't have any equipment left. Okay, so next time we put in the Cauldron, and that should provide a very quick clock. So this is the turn our opponent needs to drop something good. Like a Hardcast Fury, for example, would be very good here. Could be a Chandra. And just ping down our Steonforge. Fiery Confluence is going to kill both of our guys and hit us for damage. Yeah. Steonforge Mystic. Alright, we'll just keep trying to do this. Kind of wish I had a Batter Sky in my deck at this point. Another Fiery Confluence kills us. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. They have used 2, and they tend to only run 2 or 3, so we might be alright. Alrighty. Let's activate this before we do anything else. Put in our Cauldron. Attacks. I think we play out our Wasteland here. At some point we might need to cast our big Phyrexian Worm for like 7 mana. So getting as much land in play as we can will help. That seems like a misplay to me. They could use the other half and bounce my guy. Which makes me suspicious what the last card in their hand is. Okay, so it disconnects. Okay, we'll play this out for the same reasons as last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're 1 away from casting our big worm if we draw it. Which should certainly pad our life total. Okay, let's give it. So we should have won this match, but I horribly punted in game 1 in a most embarrassing fashion. Is the Palace Jailer worth it here? The double white pips could be a problem as well. I don't think we can justify that. I think we should just resubmit as is. We do have a basic land, but I don't think this hand... It requires so much more mana to do anything, so I think we have to mulligan. 4 Ephemerates. Not an opening hand I want to keep. I think we have to bin off the Grief here. And it's either the Stony Silence or a land. Given the fact that we have this, we should probably be binning off a Stony Silence. So we need to make a basic planes before our opponent can Blood Moon us, ideally. So they can Blood Moon us this turn if they have it, and that would basically just win the game for them. Magus of the Moon. Okay, so we need to draw our basic planes. So we're going to lose in this game on turn 1. Close, but not close enough. Solitude can also kill the Magus, so that's a fine draw here. They've got not a huge amount of pressure, but it only takes 1 Rabble Master and they can just stomp on us pretty quick. Fade the Mirror Breaker, it's a good one. Stony Silence that we can't cast. Our opponent, we'll see how much they loot away here. They looted away nothing, which probably means that we are going to lose this game. 4 mana, it's going to be a Chandra. Caves of Chaos Adventure. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be pretty hard for us to beat. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 2 turn clock coming at us. Okay, so we have the Solitude and we can kill this as well. So that's a good one. Can get white source. Can get black source. So we can either Recruiter of the Guard and take 7 damage this turn, or you just plow the guy. I think we just have to plow this guy immediately. It's too strong. The problem is the initiative can just solo us out here because it's a very, very powerful thing to be doing with your deck. Mages of the Moon. Okay, so this one isn't a problem anymore because we've already got our sources here. So the next stage of this will hit us for 5. We need to draw something good here. Plague Engineer is... So we're going to 3 on this attack. On this with the trap. So if we block this, we're going to take 2. We're going to take 3 if we shrink them with the Plague Engineer. That's a Human Wizard. That's a Goblin Shaman. That's a Goblin Shaman. So just Goblin, I think, is the best name here. This also means that they can't play out a Rabble Master or something. Our opponent has the ability to kill us. They can just copy their token and send in a 1/1, a 2/2, and a 3/3. So I have to block the 3/3. So relying on our opponent making a mistake here, which seems very unlikely. But again, we should have won this round, but I punted horribly. That'll do. Not necessary. Okay, so that wasn't great. Let's go on to the next round. So this turn we have the thing that we could have done before, but we can actually do it. So we're going to keep this. I'm going to try and do the Grief Ephemerate cheese. Hopefully our opponent isn't a blue deck. Looks like there might be a blue deck. So you want to put the evoke trigger on first. Okay, so we get to hit one of our opponent's things here. So I think so this looks like a Doomsday deck to me. So I think we take the Force of Will first. And then we blink this guy. Okay, so we're getting some action from our opponent there. Brainstorm. Could be looking for a daze here. Or they could just be trying to make sure that the things that they have don't get answered. The duresses do nothing against us. The Lion's Eye Diamond is pretty scary here. But so is the Edge of Autumn. We know they have a Lotus Petal already. And a Brainstorm. I think we have to take the... Oh, it's genuinely a tricky one, actually. Now, the Edge of Autumn is something that lets them go into their pile for free when they make it. I think we'll take the Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. So that was a reasonable turn. These are the things our opponent has access to. The Brainstorm. The Lotus Petal. Let's do it all over again. So then, this turn, I think we just play out this Steonforge just to get a really quick clock, because our opponent's resource has been really hampered. Then after that, we will play the Wasteland. And we can't attack with our Grief because it's got Blink this turn. Not bad. Not a bad little way to start the game. Okay. Third Brainstorm. Okay, let's scoop it up. So, how do we beat this particular deck of Doomsday? Aethersworn Canonist is fine. Deafening Silence is fine. Our best options, really, are in the main deck with our discard. The Stony Silence has text. Not necessarily great text, but it is text nonetheless. The rest of it, not so much. I don't think we need to Flesh Gorger, and we don't need to Umezawa's Jitte. Kind of need these for black sources. The Vial is okay here as well. The Palace Jailer is not really going to do us anything. Skyclap Apparition is probably not doing anything either, so maybe just play the Flesh Gorger because we can blink that and have a really quick clock with it. I think we're not taking any black cards. I don't think there's enough black cards in this deck anyway. I think this is probably as good as it gets. We can remove a Solitude from the Flesh Gorger. So we have discard that we can't cast. We have an Aether Vial into Steonforge Mystic. Is that good enough against Doomsday? I don't think it is. I think we have to mulligan. Like, it was good last game, so if it ain't broke, ponder. I'd really like to draw some more black cards, perhaps. Let's see what we get here. Recruiter of the Guard. Okay, so we put the evoke on the bottom, so the discard resolves first. What do we have here? We have a Force of Will and a Personal Tutor. So we're definitely hitting the... If we hit the Force of Will first, then we can Ephemerate and take the Personal Tutor. So apparently that's 3 cards in hand. Consider Thassa's Oracle and Underground Sea. Feels like a relatively potent start. We get to take another card out at the beginning of their turn as well. There's a Consider. Certainly not one of the better cantrips available. I think they have to force that Grief there. Doesn't feel good, but... Okay, Float Strand. Dark Ritual or Thassa's Oracle. Thassa's Oracle in hand isn't the most useful, but they already have triple black for Doomsday. So, Doomsday into a draw pile. I think we have to hit the Oracle here, weirdly. Maybe that's wrong. Right, so let's play this out. Get ourselves one of these. And we can't attack this turn, so we just pass. There's Underground Sea. Because they already have triple black, so my logic was that we don't really need to hit it right there and then. Yes, please. Okay. Set a stop in our opponent's draw step. And do the whole nonsense all over again. Okay, they're brainstorming to hide. A Cabal Ritual and a Lotus Petal. Their Cabal Ritual is Threshold. So I think we just take the Cabal Ritual. I don't think they care about either of those cards. Right, we get to take the other one anyway. So our opponent has no cards in hand. Another Aether Vial isn't really what we wanted, but I think we play out anyway. Next time we get to Recruiter of the Guard though, so that would be lovely. The one thing we have to worry about potentially is a Shouldered, but we have Recruiter that can go and find Solitude for that. Doomsday. Okay. Spirit of the Labyrinth would have been a nice thing to have in my deck as an option. So can we work out what they have in their pile and also see if they have a Shouldered in their deck? Doesn't look like they have a Shouldered. I can't see a... Is there a Lion's Eye Diamond in here? There is a Lion's Eye Diamond. So I think they're just on Cyclers here. So we're saying yes to both of these. a wasteland. So I think we put in the recruiter here. Now, what is going to be the best thing that we can get? I'm honestly not sure. The Canonist probably is the best. Let's go and get ourselves planes. Cast this little guy. We just need to deploy everything that interacts with our opponent. So just wastelanding them, stopping them from doing these things. Okay, so what they probably needed to do was cast a blue spell first. So they probably had like a consider, cycle into... they had the mana for consider into cyclers into Thassa's Oracle there. But the counter shuts that off. Alright, so we managed to beat Doomsday. The only match we dropped so far was where I made a horrible punt, so that's on me. Right, I'm really annoyed with myself about that one still. Anyway, let's move on to the 4th round. Okay, so this opening hand on the draw is fine. We have 1 drop, choice of 2 drops, and we have a removal spell and a pinch. And we have our colours of mana. Polluted Delta, that usually means an unfair deck. Ornithopter, okay, so this looks like ninjas then. How do we feel about ninjas? Probably okay. Okay, so I have multiple 1/1s here. Powerful 1/1s. I don't think we want to cast the Esper Sentinel here. I think we're better off Solituding. We can pitch the Esper Sentinel to the Solitude. We can wait for them to put in the thing that they're bouncing as well. We can just Solitude both of these out of the game. But I think it's better to let them spend mana on a guy. Like, we can get punished a little bit with the Force of Will, but then it's still a 2-for-1. Wow, a 2-for-2. Getting attacked with Ornithopter and Thousand-Faced Shadow. This is only when it enters the battlefield I have to worry about it. So, put the evoke trigger on the bottom. And this one. We targeted the wrong one there. That was a mistake. Let's try and ephemerate and get the other one. I suppose target this one first. That's the one that's more likely to resolve. Snuff out. Sure. So, there was an error there. Got ahead of myself a little bit. I think we just have to let them get the card out. I should have hit this one first. Just got ahead of myself. Oh well. There's the Ornithopter we knew about. Right, Ether Vial. I don't think we have the time to be messing around with Ether Vials. I think we need to deploy the Steonforge or the Solitude. Sorry, the Steonforge or the Sculler. If we Sculler, we might be able to just get rid of whatever they're working with and make sure the Solitude is good. But Steonforge will just take over the game. I think Steonforge is just a better card, so let's have the best card in play. Now we could be getting dazed here. We're not getting dazed. We have the Solitude and an emergency here. We kind of need their mana to be... We either have to Solitude them before they get to the block step, or we have to do it after. Don't want a 2-for-1 myself here to kill this ingenious infiltrator. Don't think we do. I think we have to go. Okay, so what are they putting in? Another one. We can't let them have this many cards though. This is too many cards for our opponent because each one will trigger twice. So this way they get 1 card instead of 4 cards. Obviously I hadn't made the mistake earlier, that would have been a bit better. They have a snuff out. If they don't have a snuff out, then I think we'll probably be in relatively good shape here. Okay, that's good for later on. So this is a relatively difficult thing for them to answer outside of Brazen Borrower. So I think we just go in. So this is a matchup where having an extra source to Plowshares and the board is going to come in handy. So a little bit of prep work for what we think here. Source of Plowshares. Plague Engineer is possibly okay. That's more or less it, I think. The Kataki might be good if they're going heavy into Retrofitters. We haven't seen that yet, but they probably have it somewhere in their deck. They do unfortunately get to attack us here. Okay, Yuriko is a pretty good one. If they flip a Force of Will or something, they can get a lot of damage. Yeah, so this is going to be a lot of cards. This is basically the best thing the Ninja deck can do, is hit with 2 of these guys at the same time. Not something I managed to achieve when I was playing Ninjas. So they can just play this guy out just as a flying ninja, because they know it will get them cards. So I think we're actually in a bit of trouble here. We definitely getting punished for the misplay with the Solitude there. Not having So I think our option here is to race our opponent. This does have trample, so they're going to have 4. I don't think, because we know they've got the guy in hand, another guy in hand. They probably have another mana as well. So we just have to try and get there. I'm not going to play out the Ether Vials. I'm just going to represent more things in my hand and not show our opponent the Ether Vials because they're not going to be a thing we need in this game. This way that they're at least thinking about us maybe having a Solitude. Now our opponent's probably got some counter magic in hand, unless their deck is just really aggressive and without counter magic, which would seem very strange to me. Okay, block the 1/3. So they got another ninja. Moon Circuit Hacker. This one draws a card, I think. The turn it comes in, it draws a card if it hits. Otherwise, it loots. So this is a lot of triggers, including some Yuriko triggers. So the chances are we're going to die to the Yuriko here. A Wasteland, okay. Chromox, okay. So we didn't die to the Yuriko trigger, and our opponent is on 5. They do have the Ornithopters, so they can play those out and stop us from being able to kill them. If we draw a land, we might be able to Skyclave Apparition the Ornithopter, but our opponent does have 15 cards in hand. Sure, Chromox. There's an Ornithopter. There's the other one. Okay, that'll do it, I think. Alright, so we would like Plague Engineers. We would like Swords to Plowshares. The rest of it doesn't look so great to me. The Flesh Gorger is okay here. The 3/3 is actually bigger than most of their guys, so I don't hate that. Removal spells are pretty good. They've got a lot of Mitty Men, so I'm not sure Palace Jailer is where I want to be. And we're looking at cutting some of these things. The Esper Sentinel feels pretty anemic here. Like, they don't really go in. They have Brainstorms. They're not like a Brainstorm and Ponder deck usually. They do hold an Omizawa's Jitte though, which is a relatively important thing to note. So maybe trim on one of the vials. Alright. This opening hand is fine. You get to make Stoneforge or Sculler on 2. I think we can keep this. It's not great though. I really did want some removal, but yep, so they're going to have a guy on their next turn. And they got Brainstorm. Main phase Brainstorm without a fetch land. Sure. Turn 1 main phase Brainstorm. Oh, they could definitely have us here. Let's crack this. We're going to get Plains. And we need to get a Swamp here. We also want 2 swamps for the purposes of casting our Flesh Gorge when the time comes. I think this turn we just play the Sculler because it's the thing that can stop them having the really scary turn. So they pitch the guy that ninjas in for 4. Okay. So we can play a Stoneforge, and if they try and kill it, we can Malakir Rebirth it to make sure that we can get our guy in. Alternatively, we can recruit with the guard. But I think playing a Stoneforge around the days is probably the better play here. Looks like they're going for either Yuriko or the standard ninja lad. It's the Yuriko. So this one deals more damage based on where it hits. The other one's a 2/3, but this one can deal loads more damage. Alright. So here we go. Let's try and play out our Steonforge Mystic, holding up Malakir Rebirth of all things. This can also block the Yuriko. Should we get in the Cauldron or should we get in the Umezawa's Jitte? I think we just want the Cauldron here. This is punishing me for the way I tap my mana here. Yeah, I made a slight misplay there and didn't play around Wasteland, and I'm going to get punished. Can't really cast his Malakir Rebirth. Our opponent's Ninja's deck looks certainly better than the one I played on my channel though. Okay, so they're going to get to draw 2 cards this turn. And one of them is going to deal me damage, potentially. Okay. Not very happy with how this game is going. A Wasteland, that doesn't really do anything for us here, does it? So we play this out and we Cauldra. I think we're Cauldra on blocks so we can stop some of their card draw ability. Just the Ornithopter. Oakley dokley. Fortunately, I can't do anything about that. How much you hit me for? Well, not playing around the Wasteland, it didn't actually make any difference, but it was still suboptimal. Again, being by the Ornithopter deck. Alright, so let's put this card into play. I've got so many cards in hand. Okay, the Solitude. We can do the trick with it as well. Try and get 2 copies of it. I don't think we need to do that right now, though. I think we can wait. Try and tap our opponent's resource on their turn. We could... So we can cast a Steonforge this turn. And we can still play this around days. The Underground Seabait is strong. Fatal Push on this Steonforge. That's fine by me. I don't have a second white source to put a thing in anyway. Now, if they're dazing this, it means that our other player is going to be better. Yes, we'll get this Jitte. So we have a plan of how to win this game. Make a Solitude, stick a Jitte on it, or stick a Jitte on the Phyrexian Germ token. We've got options. Now we have to try and resolve both of these spells to really get going. It's certainly possible. Let's see how they attack. Just the Ornithopter. Let's let them use their mana to put a guy in. Now let's try this out. This could just eat a Force of Will here. And it looks like that's what's happening. So this means our opponent gets to draw 4 cards. Yeah. Our opponent's definitely drawing the good stuff in their deck instead of just bricking out on Ornithopters. But once you start getting a couple of them draw in, then you tend to just run away with the game a bit. This is what's happening here. Okay. So what we have to do here, that Wasteland is very good if they target our Wasteland with it. They did not target our Wasteland with it. So we put this in. Put this to the Germ. We're kind of forced to attack here. And we are just dead unless our opponent makes some sort of mistake here. Let's just take the 5 and then kill us on the crackback. Okay, the Wasteland was a little bit late. Should have done it earlier so I could at least equip the Jitte. So we're on a functional 7 here. So this is 2, 4, 6, 7. So they have exactly lethal. And there's not really anything I can do about it. And we needed them to block one of their guys. So we kind of messed up game 1 a bit. But game 2 we just got pretty rolled there, I think. Our opponent's kind of just playing little guys out like we are, except all of theirs draw them millions of cards. Alright, on to the final round, I think. This opening hand has got too many lands in. I think we mulligan. I don't think I can keep a hand where I don't do anything until turn 3. That's just not something I think I can realistically do. So I'm going to mulligan. This is better. We can keep this. So we have the Flesh Gorger. I don't know if we can realistically pitch the Grief here. The Wasteland is a little bit flexible here. So we probably bin off the Vista and the Grief here. Play this out. A Thoughtseize. Okay, they're going to see our hand. If they take the Sculler, then we can at least cast the Flesh Gorger for getting 2 swamps. Or we can just go and get a Scrubland. An Ephemerate. So we get to do our little combo, potentially, in the near future. Black, black. Don't see basic swamp into basic swamp very often. Malakir Rebirth. So we can play out the Rebirth and next turn Phyrexian's Flesh Gorger with Malakir Rebirth backup. With Ephemerate backup. Which I don't hate. Like, because we are all in this Flesh Gorger, I'd rather make sure it survives. Now, this does expose us to removal spells. Not removal spells, discard spells. But our opponent didn't cast one on that turn, and they had the ability to cast a Hymn to Turak. So I don't mind this. The Wasteland. That's a little bit sad. That's kind of taken the choice out of our hand a bit there. Now, if they follow up with discard as well, that'd be pretty annoying. Okay. Again, our opponent isn't committing to the board, so we kind of have the same choice as last time, except we can't get Wastelanded off of it this time. Another swamp. We'll play this Wasteland they know about. We'll crack this for white source. Crack this for a black source. And then we'll cast this. Cast with prototype. Black, black one. See if we can make our Flesh Gorger big. 4 swamps. Leyline of the Void. Okay, so we know what our opponent's doing now. I think we should just make our clock big. We do not want to recast that. If our opponent has a Helm of Obedience and a land, we can just die here. And that would be very sad. I think we still play this out. We can keep this other land in hand for now. Dudley Voidwalker, sure. So they don't have the Helm of Obedience in hand just yet. Plague Engineer. What are you going to name here? Worm, probably. Could be like human or something, because they know we're going to have some sort of stuff like that. Phyrexian. Cool. Now this has Menace. So they're not blocking it, because Daffy Voidwalker can't block it. So our opponent has 1 turn to either field another blocker or have a Helm of Obedience. 6 lands. 6 basic swamps. Turak. Okay. This does not have Trample though. It's just Menace Lifelink. I say just. So they need to hold back Turak and Plague Engineer to block it. Sure. But they have to have them both. This would be a great turn to draw Malaka Rebirth. Or a removal spell. What do we draw? A Wasteland. So the question here is, do we want to attack and force them to put both their guys under the bus? No. I don't think we do. I think we can wait a turn. Because that doesn't really get us anywhere. So they can't target our guy at least. But now they're just drawing to Helm to kill us. 7 basic swamps. A beautiful sight to behold. So this guy can attack us for a while. He's not really going to be killing us anytime soon. So we've got a lot of live draws here. Ephemerate. That's not actually the best here. Because this doesn't have first strike or anything. So there's no way that I can like put damage on the stack and blink it like you could in the old days. A Wasteland. Targeting our Wasteland. I guess. Just going to keep bashing for 3. At any moment they can just draw the thing that wins them the game, but then I'm in the same position here where I can draw like a Solitude. Just get rid of their guy and bash for 7. Do we stack this up? I don't think we do this turn, right? So we want to be able to recruit her for Solitude. So I think we say no to this one. Solitude. There's the guy. It's going to get basic planes. They can't target our Phyrexian Flesh Gorger without dying. Alright, so we got the game off of very, very, very mono black. So what is going to be good against this mono black? So this Revoker can name Helm of Obedience. And this Source of Plowshares can kill a Doughty Voidwalker. And these Stony Silences can also stop it. If we bring in Stony Silence, we probably want to cut out our Ether Vials. That's a relatively clean cut. The Umazawa Jitte still being our deck is not great. I think I would rather have a Plague Engineer of our own. And then the question is, so we can board in Deafening Silence to like make their Dark Rituals bad, but I don't think that's very good. Do I want this other Plague Engineer? I don't think I do. I think just the one is fine for now. Alright. I'm not sure what removal spells they're going to have in their deck. Because I have Wastelands, this Malaka Rebirth is a liability. And we have a Cauldron that we don't want. I think we mulligan this one. This lets us do the thing. I think we don't have double white. We already don't have any white. But I think we get rid of the Skyclave. We can Solitude Malaka Rebirth though. If we have the need to kill something. This hand is not great. I won't lie to you. I'm not very happy about it. And maybe I should have mulliganed it. But always rewarded, right? Okay, so what are we going to have here? Him to Turak or something would be pretty bad for us. A Wasteland, okay. Our opponent not starting with Leyline means it's going to cost them more time and mana before they can do a Helm kill. A Dark Ritual. Do I get a bit of mana off this? A card, sorry. Okay, we have a Grief. So depending on what our opponent does here. Him to Turak. Well, we can't kill that one with white things, so this could be challenging. That's not so bad. Obviously, this guy being big isn't great, but we can find a way through. Phyrexian, Soul Gorger, Worm, whatever it's called. That's what we would like to have. We can't actually pitch the Solitude now, but we can do the Grief, but then not be able to flash it, but be able to rebirth it. I think we just have to play this and pass. So Turak is another reason why maybe another Plague Engineer would be good, because at least there's a Death Touch guy that can block this pro-white guy. A Plague Engineer. I see. They're naming human, or are they naming soldier? Human. Sure. They bash us up for 4. Yeah, we are very far behind. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, my God. Pressed the wrong button and yielded. Great. Cool. The control didn't work to fix that either. Yikes. We can kill this Plague Engineer whenever we want. So maybe now is a good time to do that. And we'll exile this. Put the evoke trigger on the bottom. Okay. So now we get to attack with the Solitude. We don't get to hit anything else with it, unfortunately. Which is a shame. I mean, possibly could have waited till second main, but I don't think our opponent's going to play another creature out. A Khan. Okay. We can kill this Khan with the Solitude if they minus it. What have they found? Helm of Obedience. We knew that was coming. An Esper Sentinel. Let's kill off their Khan and gain some life. Play this out. Fetch land. So missing this land drop didn't actually make any difference to us passing for our turn, which is weird to say that. But so there's the Helm of Obedience. Can I have a card, please? We can have a card. Okay. The Turak should be staying back on blocks here, yeah. Steonforge Mystic. What we can do, actually, I think the best play is to cast the Steonforge and then grief them. We should have griefed them first in case they're sandbagging a snuff out or something. We get this because this can go around the Turak. Then we cast this for free and see if they've got a graveyard, you know, one of the Doughty Voidwalker type effects in their hand. They have a Doughty Voidwalker. Okay. So we're doing okay. They can Khan, which is a little bit annoying. But I don't think they can play anything with it once they do the Khanning. There's the Khan. There's a pretty heads-up play they can do by making our Cauldra into a creature so that it can't be equipped anymore. But I do get to attack into their Khan first. This Palace Jailer is pretty good. We're going to need some mana before we can really work with that one, but it's coming. So let's attack Khan, the Great Creator, I think. Yeah. They might put the Turak under the bus to keep their Khan alive. They did not do that. Okay. So, like at any point they can draw a Doughty Voidwalker and kill us. And Snaring Bridge. Sure. So we could get the Monarch in a way that means that they can't ever attack us. So that'd be okay. So maybe we can draw into something that shuts us down. There's 3 cards in hand. Stony Silence. Okay, that's one of the cards that shuts that down, so that's good. We can't attack though because our germ is too big. Can't cast Palace Jailer, we can't really do anything here, so we just have to pass. They shouldn't be able to remove Stony Silence unless they have that 2 mana like destroyer an enchantment, you take damage equal to its mana cost, which I haven't really seen very much in these decks. Plague Engineer, Shouldered. Yep, that's a good time for me to try and draw this Palace Jailer, that's for sure. Draw the mana for the Palace Jailer. Can I have, please? We cannot have the land. Oakley dokley. Look at this. The Jitte isn't in our deck anymore. But we just need to hunker down here and try not to die to the Shouldered. We've got a few turns because it's just the Shouldered's drain. It's not being able to attack us either. Because they've got too many cards. They haven't got enough cards in hand to attack with it. Not that they would attack into a Phyrexian Germ Token. Khan. Are they going to pay this time? Or are they just going to let me have the card because I drain for 2? Okay, this Khan is a problem. This can go and get a Mycosynth Lattice and lock us out that way. But if they crack it down, they have 3 cards in hand. So I have the Palace Jailer. I can jail this away, attack with these little guys, and kill it. Okay, so they're plussing it. We might be forced to do that play next turn anyway. A Scholar. Sure. We really need to draw a land here. Let's play this Scholar out, because it's a guy with a small... do we care about any of these? Plague Engineer is probably a little bit annoying. So we need to have a Sudden Edict. Okay, we've got a few turns. Well, they can draw a land and just Mycosynth Lattice lock us out the game. How do we beat that? We don't, I don't think. But if we can Palace Jailer the Shouldered, that's how we win this game. I've been saying that for a few turns now. It's about time we drew a land. Okay, they didn't do the trick with the Cauldra there. A land. Not a land. Yikes. Would you like to pay? Okay, so what am I going to sacrifice here? Probably a 1-2 right now. Yes, I could have kept this in hand for a Solitude play. Like Ephemerate Solitude, land, or Skyclave Apparition and keep us in this game. I don't really want to have to use the Skyclave Apparition on the shoulder when they have a card in play that's ticking up. Okay, so there's the land. So they should lock us out of the game here. How do we beat that? I don't think we do. Show us the lattice. Sky Sovereign. Does this hit target creature or planeswalker? Why didn't they just lattice lock her? That seems really weird to me. I don't think we beat the lattice lock, but we might be able to beat Sky Sovereign. So they did all that just to shoot something for 3. That's very strange to me. Alright. Is this a turn we draw a land? We haven't got many turns to draw a land before we can. Okay, so we're Khan the Great Creator. Let's hit Khan. So if they'd have just got the lattice there, then we're doomed. Okay, so we're effectively on 4 life. So we can take one more draw step, and then this Marshlands gets shut off. And then drawing a land isn't good enough. Can we draw a land, please? We cannot draw a land. So we can't play this Flesh Gorger out because we die in our next upkeep, in our next draw step. So what we have to do is try and draw a Solitude or a Swords to Plowshares. They're just gonna go coast to coast with this Shouldered, which is sad but true. Sure, this helm doesn't do anything. I think I'm going to draw a land this turn, the turn where it doesn't matter, right? That's how this game works sometimes. Absolutely called it. So we go to 1 here. And now we draw the land that if we'd have had it any of these other turns, basically gives us a game, I reckon. Alright, we concede and go to game 3. So I think we need another Plague Engineer to deal with the Turak. Which means you've got to lose something for that. Probably just want the Sentinels can go, I think. Alright, submit like this. Not a black card. It's so close to being good. I think we still keep this one. We make turn 1 Sentinel, turn 2 Steonforge Mystic. So, and at any point if we draw a black card, we can just go and get our Grief Ephemerate combo. Our opponent might have some Thoughtseize and stuff, but we'll have to wait and see. If we play this turn, we at least get another card. A Dark Ritual. Okay, so we're drawing another card. Have they just got multiple Dark Rituals into Helm? A Doughty Voidbook. Okay, that's fine. A Thoughtseize. That's less fine. So they probably take our Ephemerate here. They could take one of our Griefs and leave us without a black card. That's a little bit risky. They might just take the Stoneforge because it's the best threat I have. Okay, they took the Worm. So the Worm doesn't have one of the counters on that they can play with Doughty Voidwalker. I'm not sure if they knew that that would happen. I think they might have been expecting it as a thing that they could cast off of the Doughty Voidwalker. That'd be my assumption with a play like that. Okay, so we'll cast this for free by exiling this. Put the evoke trigger on the bottom. See what you got. Just a Plague Engineer. Do I want to Ephemerate this? Or do I just want to play my Steonforge Mystic? Honestly, I think we just play the Steonforge here. I think that's just a better play. It's just a way faster clock. Cauldron. Capital creatures. Okay. There's a swamp we knew about. This doesn't do what you think it does, right? Yeah, because they are exiled with Leyline of the Void instead. So that was a bit of a punt there. If you look in the exile zone, it has a little green symbol when you can actually do that. So I think we're probably winning this game anyway, but that's certainly going to help. Now they can just play a Helm this turn and kill us. Okay, they didn't play the Ancient Tomb, so they don't have the Helm in hand. Prismatic Vista. Okay, we're attacking with the squad. We have to fade one of our opponent's draw steps. Sudden Edict. That's okay with me. So what we're going to do is we're going to Tidehollow Sculler and then blink it in their draw step. So that we don't die. Sacrifice a creature. This guy. So we play this. Crack this for white now, just so I don't forget. So we go black, cast this guy. Nothing in hand because we know it's the thing that's in there. So now what we do is we Ephemerate in their draw step after they've drawn their card. Because the only way we lose this game is if they've drawn a Helm of Beacons. Okay, so we got the 3-1. Alright, let's have a quick look at the deck. So, one of the rounds we lost was basically a punt from me, if I'm honest. As I've been moaning about all leagues, I'm really annoyed with myself for that one. But there we go. But as for the deck, there are not enough black cards to reliably cast Grief. That is my initial takeaway with this deck. The Ephemerate with these pitch guys felt very strong. I've not played the modern deck that does that or whatever, so I don't know what it's like there. I assume it's probably pretty good. But here it felt very, very decent. I completely took apart the Doomsday player with it, and I should have done better against the ninjas in one of the games if I'd have chose my targets slightly better. That was on me. That was my mistake. But that ninja matchup didn't feel amazing, to be honest. I feel the problem a little bit, though, is you have to pitch 2 cards to do this and then have the Ephemerate. So because your interaction spells cost 2 of your cards, if you find yourself having to mulligan, you're just falling behind. I don't think this deck needs Ether Vial. Because, yeah, it lets you put some of these things in, but truth be told, these are the things that are getting countered and you're not Ether Vialing them in. So I think maybe having these as some more spells that let us interact with our opponent, or are, spells that we can pitch to Grief. So Thoughtseize, for example. I think I would rather have Thoughtseize and Ether Vial in this deck. Or maybe a few Thoughtseize and maybe some Skyclave Apparition type stuff. That would be quite nice. A Batterskull would have been pretty decent. I think I probably would have preferred Batterskull over Umezawa's Jitte this league, which is something that I've been finding a lot when I've been playing Steonforge Mystic lately, just wishing I had just 2 fatties to go and get with Steonforge instead of having this Jitte, which is fine, but I think the time it takes us to get online is sometimes too long. And I think maybe just having the Batterskull there, getting a big dose of health, and just having this big brick wall in the way as well, because of the vigilance, is just a much stronger place to be a lot of the time at the moment, especially when there's a lot of 4 toughness creatures hanging around, 3/4s like Endurance and Friends, and we've also got these new Seasoned Dungeoneer. You're probably not ever going to be able to block anyway because it's ability, but the 3/3 guy, White Plume Adventurer, that is something you can block with a Batterskull, as well as constantly attack to try and force yourselves getting the initiative off them. So I think Batterskull is probably better, is what I'm saying. The mana base was okay. Not really much more to say about the mana base. We don't really have anything going on with the Caracas other than the fact that we can bounce our opponent's legends. I feel that in one of the Moonstompy decks we had another Plains might have been nice as an option, but we do have plenty of basics. Tidehollow Scholar I really like. I like being able to blink it in the draw step like we did. I think that's quite a nice play. The Phyrexian Fleshgorger was, it was a pretty good big lad. It kind of did a bit of a Batterskull impression for the most part, but we did win a game primarily off of the Fleshgorger. So there's definitely something to be said for it. I think blinking this is pretty good. I think maybe we need, if you want to play a Fleshgorger blink deck, maybe we should be running some sort of Dark Ritual type shenanigans here, because then we can blink our Griefs and we can ritual out our Fleshgorgers and get them big super early, because a turn 4 7/5 is pretty good, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily a scary clock against what a lot of people are doing. Whereas if you were to ritual out on turn 1, or even if you had a petal as well, so if you're attacking for 7 on turn 2 or 3 with it instead of turn 4, I think that's going to be quite a significant difference. The Recruiter of the Guards was okay. We had a little package. We got some stuff. It wasn't that impressive, but it was fine. I think maybe the package could go a little bit deeper. So because this tutors for toughness 2 or less, you could have an opposition agent in here, which I think is pretty free. So maybe when you're freeing up these slots, that's other things you could think about if you wanted to play this deck. I did quite like this deck. It kind of felt a little bit combo-y at times and kind of had a little bit of Dead Guy Ale type feel to it. But it was kind of pinned together with just some solid cards like Steonforge Mystic. But what I learned when I did my Halloween deck that was, it was a bit of a joke black-white zombies deck, I found that having 4 Thoughtseize and 4 Tidehollow Scholars, just 8 solid Thoughtseize effects, one of which beats, was actually enough to take down some of the decent decks in the format. So I think maybe upping our interaction could be pretty good. I think discard on creatures is obviously a very powerful effect. Yeah, I think that's about it for the main deck. Sideboard wise, we used all of these cards at some point, so that's a sign of a good sideboard. A Council's Judgment probably wouldn't go amiss here, but where exactly you squeeze it, and I'm not sure. Also, FS1 Canonist is something you can fetch off Recruiter of the Guard. Is the thing that comes up, but it's also very slow. So against the decks where you really want the Canonist, you kind of need to draw it. Obviously, that's why we've got the Deafening Silence. So it's just an extra a Deafening Silence to try and sort of push us over the edge. But maybe having more Swords to Plowshares would have been more relevant. Just having more removal in matchups like that Ninjas matchup, or, you know, some other like high tier decks that have a lot of creatures that you just need to keep them down, because our creatures aren't great outside of the Cauldron, really. We're not trying to make a decent creature, which is why I thought the Flesh Gorger was a good addition, because it gives us another big threat. So I think if we had the Batterskull as well, we'd sort of increase our ability to have good creatures, and we had a little bit of removal to support that. We can maintain the biggest thing on the board and just kind of go to town. But yeah, I think this deck is actually playable. I wasn't necessarily sure it was going to be, if I'm being honest with you, but we managed a 3-2 that could have been a 4-1 if I'd have been less of a clown. So yeah, alright, this deck was surprisingly fun when we got to do our thing. Being able to strip 3 cards out of your opponent's hand by turn 2 with the Ephemerate play is pretty grotesque. I'm definitely going to try and build... I've been putting together some lists using these sorts of pitch guys and trying to abuse them in weird and wonderful ways, and I think there is a different deck to be built that can do this, that may be better, but I have to get some time and sit down and work out the numbers on that. Alright, that's me done for today. I hope you enjoyed something a bit different and a bit weird. But before I sign off, let me just say, if you could subscribe to my channel, that's the best way of helping me out. And if you've already subscribed, if you can like and comment, that boosts up the algorithm. The higher up the algorithm is, the more people see it, the more people subscribe, etc., etc. So I'd like to try and get my numbers up and make sure as many people can see the wonders of Legacy as possible. Alright, thank you for watching, and goodbye.